Welcome to Catholic Views. I'm your host, Renee Kranz. On today's show, we have the always popular Father Brian Eckrich on the show. He's in the studio. We're going to talk about getting prepared for Lent. And everybody loves him. He's always fun on the show. So I hope you'll stick around for that interview. First, we have Dr. Chris Bergwald, who seems very mellow right now. But he promised us that when the mics are up,
the lights are on?
we're ready for Biblical
The timer
Bites
starts.
with Dr. B.
One of those things. The 8-track rolls. Just trying to meet
Tape's running.
meet you where you're at, Renee.
Right. Where I am.
Where you are, where you is, and where you would be.
Yes.
What's today, Renee?
Oh, okay.
Elise,
Well,
what's today?
7.
You just shoved flash 6. Which is it?
No, what are you talking about?
Oh, you
She's
went
got a thumb.
this
She
one.
does
That's
it the
your
California
7?
way. That's weird.
What do you mean? How do you put up a 7?
Seriously?
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
And it's also the last Sunday before Lent,
It is.
which isn't an official thing, but it's, remember, Lent is coming.
Lent is coming. Be discerning now if you haven't
Yes.
already what you're going to give up. Right.
Yes.
So, yeah, next Sunday will be the first Sunday of Lent.
Yeah. Write that down so we
right.
remember.
I did. It's on my
I
calendar.
hope you'll remember when we're recording. So, what I want to focus on today is the second reading, which is from St. Paul's first letter to the Corinthians. It's chapter 3, verse 16 through 23. Brothers and sisters, do you not know that you are the temple of God and the Spirit of God dwells in you? If anyone destroys God's temple, God will destroy that person, for the temple of God, which you are, is holy. And he goes on from there. So I think for us, with 20th, 21st century American ears, we hear that, what do you, just that portion, when you hear that, what does it convey? What comes to mind? Word association here,
Well,
Renee.
the first thing
Let's
that
go.
comes to mind for me is like being good to your body.
Yeah,
Probably.
right.
Like treating your body like it's like God made it for you.
Right. Yep. Which is true. Which we should do. Temple. I want to focus on the word temple then briefly. So should be
That makes me think of Jewish temple.
right. And tell me about the Jewish temple.
It's where the Holy of Holies was.
Yeah.
And only certain people could go in there.
Into the Holy of
I think
Holies.
yes.
Yeah. So the temple. If we go back in history after the Exodus from Egypt, where they were enslaved in Egypt, Moses leads them out in the Exodus. They go to Mount Sinai, and God gives the people the 10 Commandments. But he does give them his law, the 10 Commandments, and a few other laws. But most of the book of Exodus is God giving Moses detailed instructions on how to build the tabernacle.
Oh, right.
Where God would dwell, this tent-like structure that they would take with them and then set up whenever they would encamp. Then, centuries later, after they go into the promised land, David eventually comes along as their first great king. Saul's the first king, David's great king. And Solomon, his son, is the one who... David has this desire to build the temple, but it's Solomon who builds the Jerusalem temple. That's destroyed by the Babylonians in the 6th century BC when they deport the Jews into exile in Babylon. They are able to return from exile 100-ish years later, and they rebuild the temple, and then Herod the Great, Jesus' time, makes that temple even bigger, but it wasn't as glorious as Solomon's temple.
Oh, okay.
So, with that, having taken some time to explain all that, the temple in Jerusalem, the first temple, and then the second temple, which was glorious, big but not as glorious. These are it's where God dwells in all His glory for centuries. It is like, you think, for us as Catholics, you think of St. Peter's. Like it's magnificent, it's beautiful, and Paul is basically saying, "Do you not know that you are essentially St. Peter's?" Might be how we put it.
Right.
So what for Jews who are reading Paul's letter, they're thinking of the Jerusalem temple, and Paul is equating the temple of Jerusalem to who they are, just our body.
Right.
We are, in fact, more glorious and more beautiful than the magnificence of the Jerusalem temple. So when you hear this in the way that Paul intended it, it's not, and therefore we should treat our bodies well and so on.
Right.
But in light of the Old Testament, there's so much more to that reference to the temple than we realize. It really is an incredible statement.
I like that connection. Thanks a lot for making that for us.
You bet.